Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. Reed is out trick-or-treating tonight. He's dressed as a little princess like he is, which we all know that. But I just want to say the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. It's Halloween night. Washington is 4-4 at 500. They just coming off a day, the 17-16 win over the Colts. We're now joined by Sam Fortier, who is actually leaving Indianapolis right now. How are you doing on this beautiful Halloween night, sir?
I'm doing well. I would like to apologize to y'all, though, because I thought to myself, oh, do I want to really do a Zoom at the Southwest terminal of the Indianapolis airport? Like, Kyle and Hall, like, that is that disrespectful? And I was like, oh, if Mike Reed's on, like, it's totally fine. This would be totally adequate. So I apologize to y'all because I thought Reed would be here and it would be cool.
It's all good, brother. As long as you're here, Sam, that's all we care about, brother. And I got to get your opinion because you had just come out with a piece a couple days ago on Terry McLaurin. Obviously, this was his coming home reunion for him. That huge play at the end of the game, basically to win them the football game. He absolutely killed it with 6 receptions, 113 yards on 7 targets. Kind of tell us about that piece, and then what was your knowing that you wrote that piece and then seeing the game and how Terry performed. Just kind of put that into words for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you asking me about it because that is like something that I worked on for a little bit, and I was really proud of how it came out. You know, talking about kind of the history, a brief history of Indianapolis, and then kind of how Terry fits into that, and kind of the things that make Indianapolis home to him. His parents' house in the northwest side of Pike Township, and his middle school at New Augusta, and he started playing tabernacle football through the Tabernacle Presbyterian Church, and he said it was pretty much the hood. And then he went to middle school at New Augusta, which was more middle class. And then he ended up going to an elite Catholic private high school to play football. And so he talked about seeing all parts of Indianapolis, all parts of the city. And I think when you have a guy who is as aware as he is, and has been exposed to all parts of his hometown, it was a little bit more powerful to me. And then seeing him kind of come through and make the biggest play of the game against one of the best corners in football with a part of his game, the contested catch that used to be a weakness. Like if I wrote that if I wrote that in a novel, I think my editor would be like, hey, tone it down. It's a little too much.
That's funny. No, it's definitely a great story, and definitely, like you said, a great finish to the whole story itself. But another great story seems like it's kind of shaping up is Jamin Davis. He's really kind of made some more flash plays throughout the season. Yesterday, he has the great stop on the goal line against Jonathan Taylor. And, yeah, like I said, what's your assessment of Jamin, and how have you assessed his growth throughout the season?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that stands out to me is on that play you're talking about, that third down where he shoots the gap. It's the complete opposite of what we saw from him last year, right?
Yep.
Like there's no reading and reacting. It's just you see it, boom, he's gone. He's in that hole. He's stopping Jonathan Taylor on what obviously is, even Frank Reich said after the game, that's a play that we feel really confident in when you have Jonathan Taylor. And, he did what he did last year. And even though it hasn't been as good this year, you still feel confident about that this year. So for Jamin to blow that play up, I thought really flashed. He obviously got on that wheel route, and teams have targeted him with that wheel route since week 1. Trevor Lawrence missed that throw to Etienne, and then Swift hit it, obviously. So it's, there's a little bit of playing with leverage, understanding, downs and distances and situations that you want to see more consistently from him. But, from the kick in the pants that Jack and Ron gave him in week 1, I think he certainly looked a lot better.
Yeah, and Sam, obviously you were at the game yesterday, so talk to me about this offense. Taylor Heinicke, 23 of 31, 279 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, obviously 6 carries for 29 yards and a touchdown, which was the game-winning touchdown at the end of the game thanks to Mr. Terry McLaurin and himself. Talk to you about Taylor's game. It was kind of a roller coaster again, but look, the kid has some fight in him, and they ended up getting points on the goal line, which is something they couldn't do against Tennessee. Talk to me about Taylor.
Well, I think of the stat line you just read, I think like 12 of 14 passes and maybe 150 yards were on the last 2 drives, which is kind of insane. And
Yeah.
he talked about feeling comfort in that 2-minute offense because that's what he ran at Old Dominion for 4 years. And, I think anytime that you see him play like that, you're just reminded of what this kid can be. And if he has a good defense and a good run game, how really he can complement that. I tweeted out this morning that basically he is facing a lot more pressure than Carson Wentz did. And 50% of his snaps last week, 44%, I believe, this week. And a part of that is a function of his style, right? Like he holds the ball, he's going to take more pressure. But his ability to not take sacks, I believe 1 last week and 2 this week or the other way around, that is so huge for this offense. Because when you're taking multiple sacks like Carson Wentz was doing, 3 to 5 most games, like that really just puts your offense behind the 8 ball. And obviously Carson's issues, I think, were exacerbated a little bit because in a new scheme, you're going to hold the ball longer. He's a guy that does that anyway. And his lack of mobility kind of shows up. And not to turn your Taylor Heineke question into a Carson question, but like I think that what he did yesterday was quintessential Taylor. That is exactly what he does. He balls out, he throws a really bad pick, and he looks totally unfazed. And I think it's going to be a really interesting debate if Carson Wentz is ready to come off IR in 2 weeks, and Ron Rivera has to say, okay, Taylor just won 3 of 4, or he won 2 and then we dropped 2. But what are we going to do moving forward? Because I think while Taylor is making it a really interesting discussion, I still tend to think the ceiling is higher with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I agree with you. And crazy thing in that game yesterday kind of felt like the Atlanta Falcons game from last year with all the miraculous touchdowns and everything. Sorry, Hall.
No, it's good. It's actually funny that you mentioned that because my question was going to be that it kind of seems that their game plan over the past couple of weeks since Taylor's taken over is kind of back to that kind of conservative clock management, play good defense, don't turn the ball over if you can help it, and just kind of grind it out, keep it a 1-score game, keep it close, and try to capitalize at the end. Do you think that's sustainable going forward? And my second question would be, if Carson Wentz does come back, do you stick with that game plan, or do you try to open it back up again how it was before?
I mean, this is a really tough question. I mean, is this game plan sustainable? A part of me thinks yes, especially because around the league now, you're getting a lot of boxes because teams are playing so much too high because teams are passing so much, right? So if you can do what the Falcons are doing, for example, and if you can run the ball effectively and sort of just have your quarterback kind of pass off of that, if you can do what a lot of these good quarterbacks are doing, and I think what the Colts are trying to do with Sam Ellinger, if you don't have an immobile pocket passer, obviously Brady is the exception, but those dudes, if you take sacks, it ruins drives, it kills drives. And so if you have a guy that, it's not even about what is his arm talent, it's just if you're not facing 2nd and 17, if you're facing 2nd and 7 consistently, the gap between that is just so massive. So can you stick with the conservative game plan? Is it sustainable against teams that they've played the last 3 weeks? Probably. Is it sustainable against Philadelphia that could put 21 on you in a hurry and make you throw from behind? No, I don't think so. And I think we saw that last year with Taylor against Dallas, right? That first Dallas game at home where that sack fumble put them down, I want to say 18. They just had no response in that game. And Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson, that's a good combo, but they're not bringing you back against that team down 3 scores. And so to me, it's nice for a certain set of circumstances for a certain period of time. And if Carson Wentz comes back, can they model that approach? Yeah, but you do lose a lot without Taylor's mobility because that is such a crucial component of his game.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, Sam, my next question for you, the running backs. Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson both combined for only 15 rushes and 39 yards on the ground, but they were very effective through the air as well. Obviously, Antonio Gibson, 7 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. Do you think that's a product of who they were playing? Because, we've heard Rivera and the coaching staff say they're going to really hamper on being able to sustain the run, ground and pound strategy, but looking at those stats from yesterday, it doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, no, it does kind of look, I think, contradictory when you see that. But to me, I was in the locker room after the game and, talking to Tyler Larson and Trey Turner and Cornelius Lucas. They were like, dude, we thought we were going to throw some passes in the flat and get those guys tired and soften them up and then be able to run it, up the middle. But I know that everybody always says like, oh, we respect our opponent, but like it seems like to me there was a little bit of a different level of respect for that defensive front. Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, how physical and long and talented those guys are. And so I think that was a reflection of it. Hey, we're not out leveraging these guys enough to run the ball effectively. And obviously, like Antonio, if you can get eat up Yak in the same way that those dudes were doing yesterday, if you can get Terry in man coverage, on that little juke route, like, yeah, do that all day long. And so I was actually a little, yeah, I was actually a little surprised they didn't go to that more. But basically, was the running game a concern yesterday? Yeah, you wanted to have more production, but to me, I guess I didn't see that as an indictment on the game plan.
All right. I use reverse psychology there because I'm usually very positive, so I spun that a negative way in hopes that you would say something positive.
It worked.
Right, Kyle, the master manipulator.
Yeah.
So halfway through the season, it seems like I forgot what my question is going to be. Okay, halfway through the season, at the halfway point for the basically, Scott Turner has kind of been a mixed bag of play calling, like. The creativity's there at one point, and then the offense kind of lulls for a little bit. Then it comes back again later on into the game. What has been your assessment on Scott Turner so far halfway through the year?
I'm actually going to let Kyle's dog take this one. It sounds like he's
I have it muted so they can't hear it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, man, because I think Scott Turner is one of the biggest question marks headed into this season, right? But it's tough because, like, he still doesn't have quarterback stability. He doesn't have a guy, who I think has been in the offense longer than you want to see the acclimation period, 6 weeks, and being able to throw it down the field. So I empathize with the difficulty he's facing. But at the same time, I don't think he's been good enough. I think that he's been a little bit predictable at times. You haven't seen him maximize the game plans. And I know that some people have talked about this. Is it a coincidence that the best two game plans he's had this year have been in weeks 1 and 7 when he had a little bit of extra time to prepare, coming off that Thursday night game against Chicago? I actually asked Ron that this morning, like, is that a coincidence, or do you think there is something there that this team needs to address? And he was pretty adamant that it was a coincidence, but until we see something different, I think you just kind of have to say, what is it about, Scott Turner? Because even in Dallas, I just think he's sometimes slow to adapt in these circumstances. And while I think he's a smart guy and I think he understands, I think he gets it in a way that some coaches don't, like Byron Leftwich. I think, when he doesn't take numbers into account, like, I'm not analytics has to dominate everything, but I think you got to be aware of them because it's a good decision-making tool. And I think he gets it. And I think he knows how to put people in positions to win. But we just haven't seen the results, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah, no, it's a results-based business, so you're definitely right on that. So I actually just thought of that question on the fly because I forgot my original one, but my original one just popped back into my head, so I had to get it in real quick. William Jackson III, what's your gut feeling on them moving him? And if they don't move him, do you insert him back into the defense? Do you ease him back in? How's that going to work out?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. But my question is like, whenever we talk about, hey, what could they get for William Jackson? Like, who is willing to give up what for Will Jack?
Right.
Like I guess you could do. I think the biggest thing that Washington could do if they were to regain any trade capital at all is you do what the Falcons did with linebacker Deion Jones, like a month ago when they traded him to Cleveland. Like, you chop off the last year of the deal so that he can hit free agency sooner and the team doesn't have to, you reduce the financial penalty. And if you're Washington, you try to eat all the salary you can so you can get the highest draft pick back, because William Jackson obviously failed signing. That it is what it is. You're not going to, recoup any value on the field, it seems like. So just get what you can in draft picks if you can get anything at all, because that initial report came out like, oh, William Jackson wants to go to a more man-heavy scheme. Like, the bad news for him is that teams are just playing less man across the board. And so, like, Washington plays man like 2/3 of the time, and that's 10th highest in the league. There's only 4 teams that really play man at a much higher rate than they do, and it's Miami, the New York Giants, the Detroit Lions, who have one of the worst defenses in football, and the New England Patriots. So, like, it's a tough market, because are any of those teams going to give up valuable draft capital? Are any of those teams in a position where they feel like they need a William Jackson that it'll push them over the top? Maybe Miami. because they play with so much speed. But even then, you say, okay, well, Will Jack's been dealing with a bulging disc in his back. Like, do we know that he's going to be, Will Jack from before? So I think that because I think that injury is for real. I think a lot of fans think like, oh, that's just fake. Like they're just putting it out there. But I think there is some combination of like he wasn't playing very well and he was also dealing with this injury. So they benched him. But I mean, we asked Ron last Friday, like, what do you anticipate William Jackson being on this team next week? And he was like, right now we're focused on the players who are going to be on the field. So you should take that for what it's worth. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree with I'm smelling what you're smoking, Sam. Now, to wrap this up, I only have a couple more questions for you. Chase Young's return, obviously Ron Rivera talked about it in his presser today. They're going to be very cautious with Chase Young, without a doubt. What's your expectation? When do you think Chase Young will be able to suit up and play in one of these games? Are you expecting not maybe against Minnesota, or are you expecting Philly?
I think Minnesota could be on the table.
Okay.
They probably will play it extra cautious, so probably it's not likely. But he's expected to return to practice on Wednesday. That'll open up the 21-day window where they have to activate him or place him on season-ending IR. I would expect, if not Minnesota, I would be, I think Philly on Monday night would be the most likely scenario. If there's a setback, maybe it's the next week at Houston. But right now, I would kind of circle that Philadelphia date as the likeliest. Though I should say, their sense was he was coming back last week, so things can change.
Okay, I got you. Now, the last one I have for you. This team is 4-4, Sam. Well, I don't know what to do with this. They're 500. We're not used to this sort of play. This is awesome. Now, looking ahead, going against the 6-1 Minnesota Vikings. Last question I have: has your outlook of this team changed at all the past 3 games with this winning streak?
No, it's. I mean, this is kind of basically like Taylor Heineke has been the stopgap. He's been keep the boat afloat sort of deal, which is kind of what I expected from him. I'm not surprised that they've won these games. I think they would have to beat a Minnesota or a Philly, or Carson would have to come back and ball out for me to really say this team is capable of achieving the 9-10 wins I thought they could be capable of before the year.
Okay.
The defense is rounding into shape. They have a much easier schedule after Philly. You get Houston, you get Atlanta, and Atlanta's playing a little better. And you're going to face, I know Deshaun Watson will be back when they play the Browns. But they have winnable games in that second half of the year, especially 2 division games with the New York home and away and Dallas. But to me, it's going to take a statement win for me to say, this team is not just beating up on new quarterbacks or hamstrung offenses.
No, and that's not harsh at all. I think that's very fair and realistic and a great way to look at it. I don't care what Reed says about you, Sam. You're a good guy. Can't thank you enough, brother. I really do. I appreciate it on this Halloween night. I hope you have a safe travels coming back home here. I'm glad we were able to get a W yesterday and make a little bit of joy for you writing these articles and everything you have to do. So I really appreciate all your work, Sam, and any time that you have for us. I can't thank you enough, brother. Have a good night.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate you, Sam.
It, man.
All right, everybody, it's a Victory Monday.
Left hand up. Who are we?
The Commanders. Some dude called me a Bama today for saying that, and he was, and I was like, I'm not a Bama fan. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, you're not from DC if you don't know what a Bama is. Like, come on, man, you don't know I'm playing with you right now. You don't think I know what a Bama is? Come on, bro. But we are going to be joined by our next guests here very, very shortly, and these are 2 very good friends of ours, 2 good pool players, you could say. And they're going to be joining us from the UK. They're actually thinking about starting their own podcast, if you didn't know.
Nice.
So, before we are joined by them, before they get in here, let's do our game beers and let's do our chores. Before we get into game beers, let's hand out some chores, brother.
Ooh, chores. Man. Chores. First chore I would say was going to have to be... I got to go with Scott Turner. I know he's getting a lot of hate from the fan base as of late, but, I mean, the play calling has been up and down, up and down, up and down. So, yeah, not the worst game that he's called, but definitely not one of his better games. But they got the W. They made it happen when it counted. But you just got to do a couple bushes need trimming out in the front, Not some heavy yard work, but just rake a couple leaves here and there.
For me, I guess I'll send myself out to do some chores. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been very harsh on Bobby McCain. He probably doesn't deserve it, to be perfectly honest with you. But he had a great game. He had led the team in tackles with 8, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 pass deflection. That tackle for loss is on the screen close to the Colts goal line. It was an absolute great play. I thought Bobby McCain had a great game. I've been talking a bunch of crap about Bobby, so I'm glad that he had a great game. I'll go out and do some chores, Bobby. I'm sorry I've been hard on you, brother. But now we are joined by one of our next guests, Mr. Andy Lockhart in the UK. Oi! How you doing, brother?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Happy Halloween, man. You're dressing like a 500 team fan right now.
Happy days.
Happy days,
sure.
brother. And we're giving out our game beers and chores.
Okay.
So we haven't given out our game beers yet, so we're giving out our chores at the moment. I picked myself. Hall picked Scott Turner because he hates Scott Turner for some reason. Who's getting your chores?
Oh,
Kidding.
I think Kendall Fuller, to be fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Every time they're looking for a big play, they're always looking at Fuller. You know, every team's doing it. Everyone's trying to pick on him. He did okay for most of it, but yeah, he made some not massive mistakes, but bad enough. Do you know what I mean? To get him down there into range. So yeah, I don't really like Fuller either personally.
Oh man, leave my man Fuller alone. my boy VT boy. He's had a rough week. I thought him and Benjamin St. Juste did pretty well. But let's get into our game beers, Andy. Who's one player that deserves to be able to kick their feet up and enjoy their Monday? They played really well yesterday and they deserve a relaxing day.
I'm going to say Gibson.
Okay.
Yeah. Gibson had a good game. I'd say he was a little bit hit and miss with obviously, but I blame that on the O-line personally, not pushing up further upfield. So, trying to get to the second level. Weren't able to do that virtually the whole game, but I think Gibson had some nice plays and kept the ball moving. So I'm happy with Gibson.
Yeah, 7 rushes, 19 yards, 7 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I said it during the game. This offense is at their best when these running backs are utilized in the passing game. And my goodness, did we see that in fruition yesterday? That first touchdown to Antonio Gibson was beautiful. He played it perfectly. He does the fake handoff just enough to free Shaq Leonard enough, and then once he hits that line of scrimmage, he's gone and they can't even get a foot on him. That was absolutely beautiful. Who's somebody that's getting your game beer? Because look, Andy knew who you were going to pick, and he said, "I'm going to take Hall's boy."
I know. I'm rocking the Gibson jersey right now too.
Oh, that's so rude.
No, I actually wasn't going to pick him now because I figured someone else would, but I'm going to go with Cam Curl. Obviously the stats are not going to stick out. I think he had 5 tackles.
Yep.
Maybe a pass deflection, maybe or something like that. But the dude, Cole Holcomb being out yesterday, he took over wearing the green dot. He was making all the calls. He was up playing in the box a lot, kind of playing as a linebacker, doing his thing. And he saved probably the game-winning touchdown would have been for the Colts by stopping Pittman at the goal line, basically, which then led to Jamin Davis getting that big stop. So Cam Curl stepped up big yesterday. He always steps up, but yesterday.
Oh, no, we're at 23 minutes. That's when your mic goes out, dude. Why? It's so random. It's so random. And look, you saw my hands the whole time. They never moved. I didn't mute them. I swear that never happens. Who's getting my game beer? If we're being honest, it's my boy Terry. I knew who Terry was the night that we drafted him. I've always been a huge fan of my dude. And the crazy thing, I want to take you guys back to that game. It's 16-10. Washington only has under a minute left in the game, or at a minute. I think it was a minute 4 seconds or something like that. They're sitting at midfield, and you're thinking to yourself, the doubt's crowding in your mind, how is this game going to end? How are they going to be able to get up there to be able to score some points? Because they can't just kick a field goal. They need a touchdown. They have to get close, and how are they going to do it? Taylor escapes that pocket, is able to go over there and throw that ball up to Terry McLaurin, and then Terry just snags it away, pulls it away from him, and then says, "This is my city." I mean, there's nobody, not only does the dude deserve a beer, I think he deserves a Shrek-sized beer. I don't know. Just give him something.
Deserves a keg.
Yeah, seriously. He does. Anybody else that should be getting your game beers, Andy?
I mean, obviously you can go with Taylor for obviously he's just a gamer, isn't he? He's not the best quarterback in the league, but he makes things happen, especially when you let him play freely. Let him roll out into the sides. I mean, when you leave him trying to make him play like a Carson Wentz, 5-step drops, 7-step drops back, he can't even see over his own line. So why are you trying to make him trying to do that? And then, that's why he gets so many block passes, so many hands on balls. let him play, which is what Scott actually did in the last kind of like 10 minutes of the game. He balled out when he could do that. When he can roll out and things. He balled out.
Yeah. Another one for me is my boy Jamin Davis. Cole Holcomb being out, and then David Mayo getting the start at Mike linebacker, but Jamin Davis still had more snaps than Mayo, and he was really good. He had 6 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. That one on the goal line was absolutely beautiful. Jamin Davis deserves himself a beer. You and that hairline, kick yourself up, enjoy yourself, chug it. I don't care, do something. You enjoy it, man, because you were given extra responsibility for this game, and you came up on your end, and so you absolutely deserve it. Now let's get into our fan questions, boys. I want to get to our first one in the Discord chat server. This is going to go from Tim Towner to you, Andy Lockhart. He says, see a lot of haters spouting off regarding Scott Turner in the game he called yesterday, Hall. What say you? Personally, I think this was a they are who we thought they were kind of game. Expected a low-scoring, close, hard-fought game, and it was.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Tim mentions. I just think it's just very difficult to like Scott Turner. To be fair, it's just very difficult. He just doesn't. I don't think he plays to play his strengths. I think that's the biggest problem with his play calling. If he started just to say, like I mentioned in the previous thing, if you let Taylor play a bit more kind of loose, I think you'll get a lot more out of him. I think technically he could win with him in that respect. He's going to throw the odd pick, and he doesn't have a great arm strength. But again, that catch to Terry was 45-yard, 50-yard throw. You know what I mean? So it wasn't bad. Because he wasn't I think he was on the 50-yard line, I think, when he actually released the ball. So, it's not horrific arm strength. You know what I mean? So it's, but Scott Turner, man.
Look,
can't like him.
Just can't like him.
I just can't do it.
I just can't do it, guys. Just can't do it. No, like for Scott, so I understand why everyone is saying it, because you feel like the anchoring down of the offense, right? They're not putting up a lot of points. You're not seeing the sustainability right in. Scott Turner does have some blame there, but I do feel like something's happening with Scott where it's a learning process for Scott, where he learned how to do offense and call offense based on what his dad taught him, right? And so what he's trying to do is replicate and listen to the guidelines that were set to him by his dad, but it's also that kind of young, adapting kind of mind and being able to put your guys in position to succeed. And that's the battle that you're seeing in the play calling, is it's going with the structure, what I'm built on, or going to the strengths of my guys, which I know that they'll be successful in. But I will say Scott Turner called a pretty good game. I loved what he did with Curtis Samuel in the running game, utilizing him not only on the outside, but doing the option plays of Curtis Samuel, that one first down run that he had, then running him up the middle. That was very crucial. I liked what he did yesterday. The Armani Rogers bump out tight end leak, that was crucial. And they did what they needed to do, but I understand why people want more out of Scott Turner and why a lot of people hate Scott Turner and want him gone. They think that he's not that good because, to be honest, I was hearing the same exact thing about Kyle Shanahan. I'm not lying to you. I heard the same exact thing about Kyle Shanahan. He's not that good. The only reason he has his job is because of his dad, blah, blah, blah. And I would sit here and tell people he's an offensive genius. Give him that respect. I'm not going to sit here, I told you so, but just the fact being is don't be so hard on Scott Turner, because sometimes things are harder than they seem, and I think Scott is a very capable guy. I just feel like there is some personal demons going on in his mind. But that being said, personal demons, we are joined by our next guest, Mr. Scott Hartley in the UK. We are joined by two UK guys, battle of the oh my goodness, I can't even speak right now, my goodness. The Revolutionary War.
Scott?
What's up, boys?
What's up, boys? Yeah, you're in with a pro. I see you got scouts on. So, yeah, all good. Just enjoying this Victory Monday. Just looking at the game again yesterday. Enjoying this 3-game win streak. So, yeah, all good, really, at our end. So,
hey, we Scott, because you're late, I'm not gonna tell your higher ups about that, but I just wanted to get your opinion, because Andy and Mike and I, we all picked our game beers. Obviously, Terry McLaurin, Taylor Heineke, Jamin Davis. I think Antonio Gibson was another one. Who's somebody that should be getting a game beer that deserves to kick their feet up, brother?
Derek Forrest for me.
Yeah.
Great fumble recovery. Hit the ball exactly on the runner on Jonathan Taylor, exactly where you wanted him to be. He played really, really well yesterday at safety again. And probably another one who's getting a lot of stick, actually. I thought Bobby McCain had a really good game yesterday. So I don't know if he was mentioned or not, but yeah.
I didn't really mention him as a game beer. I just gave myself chores because I talk so much crap about Bobby McCain, and he had a great game. So,
all right, cool.
Let's go to our next question, Discord chat server. This is from Big Tony Shivers. Scott, I'm going to go to you first. What's your favorite and least favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, favorite Halloween candy would be an American one. I really like Butterfingers. I know it sounds weird. They're awesome, but we can get them over here, but they're as rare as hen's teeth. Worst one, probably Haribo's, I suppose. They're not very good. They're just jellies, aren't they?
Of that.
I know, right?
What Haribo candy? Oh wow. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, well, I've got some downstairs in a bottle, but no, I just took my daughter out tonight.
Based on what you just said, they can just stay down there, brother.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, what about you, Andy? What's your favorite, least favorite Halloween candy?
I like the toffee apples. The toffee apple.
Okay.
Yeah, that's quite nice.
All right, toffee apple.
Yeah, and what I don't like, I have to go with the Haribo as well. To be fair,
terrible.
It's just terrible. Yeah, there's the small jellies. They're not great. Yeah.
Okay, well now I know what candy not to get on Halloween night, especially for the UK guys.
Yeah, if you come over here. Yeah.
My favorite is like Snickers. Babe Ruth. If I'm lucky enough to get those. Reese's, obviously. Least favorite is probably like those sweet tart things that come in a little plastic wrapper. I cannot stand those, dude. You get your Halloween bag would fill up with those things, and they would just sit there unless you were desperate at the end of your bag. You're like, all right, I'll eat these. Hated those. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, mine is Reese's. I love Reese's peanut butter cups. That's like my number one favorite candy overall. And close second is Snickers. I love Snickers. Least favorite is probably Almond Joy. I feel like I don't know why.
What? Dude, again, that was at 23 minutes. Now at 32 minutes, it shut off on you. You said Almond Joys you don't like, or you do like?
I think he doesn't like.
Oh, you don't like Almond Joys. My grandfather would not be cool with you, my friend.
I think. To be fair, I know it's kind of a bit of a thing, but do all Americans like peanut butter? Yeah. Is that what it's all about? Just
especially Reed. Yeah, whenever Reed has a dog, peanut butter is his favorite food. Now, let's go to our next question. This is from the Colonel Hall. Before your mic shuts out, I want to get this started with you. The Colonel asks, he says, "Happy Halloween, guys. Happy Halloween, Colonel. Is there any doubt that Heineke gets one or more of your game beers? Scary Terry and AG are also no-brainers. Who gets our defensive game beers? I already said Jamin Davis. You said Derek Forrest, Scott. Did we miss? Obviously, I would have to say John Allen, right, Andy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Under one Payne, what fun, decent. I mean, even Smith Williams has played well as well. So the D line was pretty solid. Can't really complain about them really. I mean, they stopped John Taylor. I know he's struggling with an ankle, but we kept them pretty quiet. And we said we did cause a couple of turnovers as well in key times, key areas. So yeah, I'm happy with how they played. To be fair,
yeah. Obviously, Jonathan Allen tied for lead in tackles yesterday with Bobby McCain with 8. Obviously, had 2 tackles for loss. Should have had that sack, but it ended up being a team sack. So they had 2 sacks on the day, and then Deron Payne with 5 tackles, and then 1 sack himself. So the defensive line was absolutely just wreaking havoc yesterday, dominant as all ever. Is there anybody else that deserves a game beer on defense, Hall?
Yeah, I said Cam Curl earlier just because.
I forgot that. Sorry.
Yeah, but outside of Cam Curl, I say Casey Toohill. He had a pretty solid game. He had a fumble recovery as well. Did. So, yeah.
Are we not talking about Mayo?
My man. He had a tip pass. He did it right.
Yeah, he had a pass.
Yeah, he did okay.
No.
Hey, Hall, I know you got to get out of here soon, so us and the boys, we'll finish it up for you. But I want to get this last question for you before you head out and go out trick-or-treating with your family. The Colonel asked, what would it mean for the team if we beat the 6-1 Minnesota Vikings next week?
Oh, wow. If they beat, well, 2 answers. If they win how they won, say, yesterday, where it was kind of ugly, muddied up game, offense is really not really doing anything for 2.5, almost 3.5 quarters, but they somehow pull it out. I think it'll be the same kind of story, as in like, yeah, they won, but, and then to put X amount of words after the but. But if they win and Taylor Heineke plays like he did in the second half against Green Bay, and he's really like not either the reason or one of the reasons why they win, like he's not the reason why they lose the game, I should say, and they get past the 6-1 Vikings, who honestly are kind of beatable. Like they keep teams in games as far as like Kirk Cousins, he'll keep you in the game. That offense will keep you in the game. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, that defense will still keep you in that game, but they score a lot of points. So if Taylor can put up some points and kind of go toe for toe with this offense in Minnesota and Kirk Cousins, I think that going into that Philly game, it's going to, even though a lot of people expect them to lose, I think it'll still be a QB controversy coming back when Carson gets healthy, cleared off our IR. So long story short, I think that Vikings are beatable. I know we're going to do our predictions on Friday, but I think that if Taylor's is one of the reasons why we win that game, I think we'll be right back to drama in DC like we love to do around here.
Yeah, and what would it mean if they beat the 6-1 Minnesota Vikings? It would mean that Keith Gray is going to run around in his underwear because he hates Kirk Cousins, and he's going to be so happy to be able to celebrate that. But it's going to be big because if they do beat them next week, that would mean they're going up against Philly. And I know that Philly looks like a complete juggernaut right now, but if we could go back 2 years, they went against the 11-0 Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh, and they handed them a big fat L when nobody else gave them a chance to be able to do that. That would really escalate the conversation with this team. And I wholeheartedly think they could do it, but it would help their confidence immensely beating the 6-1 Minnesota Vikings because, like I said, what they did 2 seasons ago, that would be a confidence builder heading into a massive, massive divisional game. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, well, one word, momentum.
Yeah.
I say before you got three in the bag, we make it 4, get some players back. I think hopefully we're going to get a few guys back as well for this game. So better chance for us to make a win, and then obviously go on Monday Night Football and just give the Eagles a hiding as well. So yeah, looking very, very important game, massive game. I say all about confidence and momentum.
Yeah, and look, the Eagles have gotten very lucky up until this point. They haven't had any injuries. Latest I saw that Jordan Davis, their nose tackle, possibly has an ankle injury, so he could be missing a little bit amount of time. But what do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think it solidifies the quarterback position if Taylor wins one of these 2 games. I don't think there will be a controversy moving forward. I think Ron has to hitch his wagon to the hot hand, and it'll be Taylor Heineke if he pulls it off against the Vikings. The only team the Vikings have lost to is the Eagles, so at 6-1. But their record isn't as good as everyone is making out. They've beat some pretty poor teams, so. A doink away in London against the Saints. Saints hit the crossbar at double doinks, and from taking it to overtime. But it's one of them where you're like, well, what are we gonna do? I honestly think if we get this win, momentum, as Andy said, it brings it forward into a massive divisional game going forward. But yeah, I think Wentz won't start. I'll be done for Wentz. I don't think we'll see him again if Taylor can pull this win out next week.
I agree with you. Hall, I know you got to get out of here now, don't you?
Yep.
All right, brother. It was good to see you. Me and the boys are going to carry this. I'm losing my reinforcements. I got 2 UK guys on me. Like Reed would say, it's a normal Saturday night for me. But so
with the scabs, are we? With the scabs.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But hey, no 2 better guys I'd rather be finishing this episode with, honestly, boys. So I want to get your answers to this. This is from Paul Murphy, the Pablo man. I know you guys are very familiar with him. I believe he's Scottish, if I'm not mistaken. His question is, what was your play of the day? The obvious is the Taylor/Terry throw and catch, but without that 4th down scramble and composed throw to Samuel, that drive wouldn't have got going. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I agree with. I saw the tweet from Pablo earlier. I agree with that. My play of the day, though, is the stop on the 4th down from Jamin Davis right on the goal line. That goes in, and it's curtains. We're not winning that game yesterday.
That's an absolutely great one. The other one the one I'll say is the Derek Forrest coming up and hitting that ball out It's funny because I had just tweeted, or is it the Sam Erlinger one? But I had just tweeted out that we need a turnover here, and then 2 minutes later, a fumble comes out. So I was very happy about it, and that's what we needed at that time. Because, like you said, if they would have gotten 6 there, and this defense is shown to be very stingy in the red zone as of late, getting turnovers and getting goal line shut down. They are very comfortable on that goal line, and so any team that feels comfortable going against the Commanders on the goal line is very short-sighted, I will say. What do you think, Andy?
I'm going to say one. Did you see the John Bates block on the edge rush? I mean, edge rush coming in, he didn't have to nail that fella. I can't remember his name now. It was Ngakwe.
Yannick Ngakwe.
Yeah, he came on the blind side of Taylor, and Bates was started on the right side of the line, came across Taylor, and it hit him so hard with his shoulder, it just knocked him into next week. It was a brilliant hit / block, and then Taylor got out and got a couple of yards. It wasn't an amazing kind of defining play, but I just love the physicality of it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just amazing.
Yeah, and another one that deserves a shout out is Cam Curl's tackle on that slant that the wide receiver runs. He gets him top heavy and just perfect form tackles, just takes his legs out from under him, pile drives him into the earth. Just chef's kiss on that one. Perfect, Cam. Now, Scott, this next question is from our guy, Tony Franchise on Twitter. What grade would you give the coaching staff? Thank you, Tony.
I'd probably give him a C+, maybe a B-. I thought Scott Turner's play calling was quite poor in the first half, and I thought we were very lucky to be actually in the game because of obviously mistakes from Indianapolis rather than us making plays. The Gibson touchdown was fantastically well played call. I'll give him that. That's how you make football look simple and easy, and we don't do simple and easy. We all know that. Del Rio is bringing up the numbers here to give it a better grade because the defense were absolutely on fire. And I've got to take back all I've said about him over the last 2 months. So I'll happily a humble pie. He's got that defense balling. We just need to I don't know if it's the playbook needs to be shortened or if we just let Taylor do his thing. I just felt like Scott didn't get into his rhythm until them 15 plays were called. Their first 15 that they've all automatically got going. But yeah, I would give it probably a C+, maybe a B-.
I agree with you. I think the B- is probably good. My prediction on Thursday for this game was that Washington was going to win 17-9, and the game went how I thought it was going to go, except that interception and that touchdown. So I don't want to put that on the defense because they were given a short field, not much they can really do, given the fact with how much they've done in the red zone as of late. You can't really pile on them for not allowing the touchdown there. So in that breath, I'll give them a B- just because I do feel like some things they should start going towards that 2-minute no-huddle offense more often, not just in the late in games, because that seems to what gets Taylor going, and I can understand why they want to be calmed down with that because Taylor might get Brett Favre a little bit and throw the ball in the opposing team's hands. But I think that there does needs to be little adjustments here and there, but for the most part, I think they did a good job. B-.
I'm going to say Ron, C. Didn't have much really to kind of do overall head coaching, really. There's no kind of dodgy red flags or anything like that, any challenges that he kind of needed to do.
Right. Time management seemed to be okay.
Yeah,
people were complaining about the end of the first half and saying that they weren't trying to go really hard. I mean,
yeah, it's just before the half, wasn't it? And yeah, I know what you mean. Jack, I'm going to give him an A. Okay, Jack is growing on me a bit more. I think ever since he's left social media, he's kind of focused himself on his craft and he's producing now. So yeah, great, and it just shows that Will Jack was probably the main problem with the D in the first place. So, so he gets an A from me.
Yeah,
and Scott, he's getting a D. To be fair,
okay,
he's getting a D. He just didn't. I just think he tries to make him play like a static pocket passer, and he's just not that. He's playing him like a Carson Wentz, and he's not a Carson Wentz. So for me, D.
No, that's fair. I think that's a fair point by you, and well said. Now our next question is from Sharp Eye Washington. What is it about our front office, Scott, that sits and waits on improving the team midseason? They could have offered William Jackson III and maybe Holcomb in a draft pick to the Bears for Roquan Smith. Now he's off to the Ravens.
Yeah, I saw this about an hour before I hopped on with you that Roquan's gone for, is it a second and a fifth he's gone for?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and also
I
they
don't
sent
know.
over AJ Klein as well.
All right, okay. I actually think that Ron Rivera is a very good GM, man motivator type coach. He's a player's coach. People want to play for him, but he's not a roster constructor. And it's quite obvious that the other two he's got around him in Martin Mayhew and the other Martin, that they are not roster constructors either. They can hit on a late round pick, but our last real late round pick that we got was Cam Curl. And I don't know if this front office were in at that time, or if it was if it was Carl Smith's last pick. I thought it was, Andy. So thanks for pointing that out. So I don't know. I think that what they are picking in the early rounds, it's maybe a little bit easier to hit on, but in free agency, they just don't seem to be doing anything. But this then boils down to: do you want to come to Washington? Do you want to play for Washington? Do we have to overpay as we have done in the past? Then you're stuck with enormous contracts for players who are maybe on either the back end of the career or have come in with a high reputation and they're getting paid a lot, i.e. Josh Norman, William Jackson, them sort of players. So it's not all down to the front office, but I do think that they need to maybe in the close season bring someone in who can construct a roster.
I got you. Look, I'll say this about William Jackson III. You brought up William Jackson III, sharp eye. You brought up Cole Holcomb. One issue being is that William Jackson III's contract is an issue. Do the Bears want to absorb that? I know they do have cap space. The flip side of that, why do they want to trade Roquan Smith? Because he doesn't want to sign a long-term deal with them. So you're sending Cole Holcomb there, who's going to be needing a new deal here soon. Would they be trading for him just to possibly not sign him? And that's the big question here, because the other team has to be willing to take. We could sit here like Madden and say, yeah, you should trade him. You need two to tango, unfortunately. Yeah. And look, I understand that we want to give them for peanuts, but at some point you got to be able to retain some talent if it's not worth it in the end. And I understand about William Jackson being a dead weight at this point. You could, not to be disrespectful to him, but just saying that it's not going to garner a lot in return. I know we wanted Roquan Smith, but look, we got linebackers here. They're playing well. Linebackers not the reason why we are in the position right now. Right now, it's offensive line, and that's what I'm eyeing towards. What about you, Andy?
Yeah, 100% agree. That's what I was going to pick up on was, I'd have loved Roquan playing in our team, be unbelievable. But shame that he's gone over to there. But from my side of things, when's the trade deadline? Is it tomorrow?
Yep,
tomorrow. We need a guard, at least one, maybe even two. I'm willing to kind of trade, good players to get one, or to get a quality one. Norwell, shocking. He's always on the floor. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what is going on with this dude? And Trey Turner as well. Trey Turner as well, man. Just get me out of there. You know what I mean?
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree. I thought he had a good game yesterday.
No, he didn't get any penetration at all. Didn't help the running backs at all in the second half, or second tier. What you call it? Second level.
That's fair. I think you both bring up really good points, boys. But that being said, Andy, you both hit great points, because this next question that we have is segments right into from Brant on Twitter. Do you think we should try Wes Schweitzer at left guard? He's tired of seeing Norwell run on a screen and touch no one.
Yeah, when is he available? That's the problem with Wes. We know he had a concussion. We know he was in IR, but he also had other injuries that we don't know too much about. So, when's he ready? If he's ready, hell yeah, get him in. Get rid of Norwell, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that. Putting him and Charles back in would probably shore it up even more. Tyler Larson, friend of the show, obviously for you, Kyle. He's made a massive difference since coming back in at centre. That would probably be our best starting O-line, I think, is having no Norwell and no Turner.
Yeah,
the snaps were nice as well from Larson. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when Schweitzer was in, all over the shop, Carson's feet above his head, it was ridiculous. So I know he's not a centre, but so don't play guys there. Do you know what I mean? If you can't play it, don't play him there. Square peg, round hole.
I got you. Yeah, for left guard, so with Norwell, what I would need to know is if he is injured and how injured he is. because Wes Schweitzer obviously is injured himself right now. And so you don't really have anybody to back up because Wes Schweitzer was your backup guard, was your backup center without Larson there. And then Sadiq Charles was as well. And now Trey Turner steps in at right guard, and he did pretty well yesterday. I think he does deserve credit for coming in there and being pretty good. I saw him actually get a pancake. Him and Norwell did pretty well on somebody. But I want to say, Wes Schweitzer, I don't know what's going on with him. I know he had the concussion, went on IR. I thought that there was possibly another injury that was attributed, which forced him to go on IR. But he's somebody that can come in and help you without a doubt. But I also want to bring in the fact that Sam Cosmi still is coming back. Cornelius Lucas has done pretty well at right tackle. So if we need to, we could always kick Cosmi in at guard and then kind of work with what we have here. But I think the two guards at the moment, they are beat up. They're still trying to get their way back to being healthy, and they are getting manhandled a little bit, but the help at center has really helped them and covered some of the issues. But I don't think that we should run in and just try to swap somebody out right away with somebody who's already injured, is my point, Brant. But it's a good point. It's a good theory. Next question I have, Andy. This is from Paul Murphy again. Should Washington now just say that Heineke is QB1 going forward this season? For me, he is far more suited for us than Wentz. He's more mobile, gets sacked less, and can make those plays when they're most needed. Is that not what we want?
That is what we want, yeah, for sure. Especially if you haven't got an offensive line is excellent in pass pro, there's no point in having a statue like Carson Wentz in there. He's just going to get he's going to get sacked. How many times we've seen him sacked so far this year? Was it 10 times? Probably even more than that.
He almost got sacked 10 times in one game, bro.
In one game, that's right. Yeah, it was in one game. So and again, okay, we've obviously harped on about the O-line and stuff, but if you haven't got that kind of O-line, you've got to have a mobile QB. Yep. And I think you put a stat on the Discord, about kind of how many times Heineke's been hit compared to Wentz, and it was like twice. I think he's been sacked twice, total, hasn't he?
Taylor. 3 times over the past
3 times.
weeks.
Yeah, and compared to 8 in 1, from Wentz. So obviously it's that because he's mobile, he can extend the play, and it's so important, with an offensive line that can't protect pass pro wise. So yeah.
Absolutely,
100%.
and it helps
100%.
the wide receivers be able to get open, like we saw that Terry McLaurin, great, beautiful catch yesterday. But I don't think that they should anoint Taylor as QB1 going forward for the season. I love Taylor. I'm an avid supporter of Taylor. I have his signed pylon sitting upstairs or in my bedroom right now. I love Taylor Heineke. That being said, you don't know how the season's going to go. And one of the things I do not want to have happen is catastrophe hit, and we continue to go with Taylor throughout the season, because if you're going to have a top 10 pick and you want to be able to go get one of these quarterbacks in the draft, you have to see what you have in Sam Howell for the time being with these regular season reps that you have, because you have to go into the offseason knowing what you have here before you attack the draft. And that's one of my big concerns. Now, if Taylor Heineke continues to win football games, then yeah, continue to go down this route. Without a doubt, go right ahead. But I feel like the Sam Howell aspect needs to be talked about more if things do go downhill. But I do not expect them to, because I love this team. What do you think, Scott?
Fair point.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I agree with that. As I said before, I think if Taylor wins one of these 2 games, I think it's him going forward until the end of the season. I think Ron just has to hitch his wagon to Taylor and say, you're my guy. I actually would like a little bit of clarity from the front office and from Ron to say, hey, maybe we've possibly made a mistake. I'm not saying that. I don't want to be down on Wentz as much as we are, but he has been the absolute statuesque quarterback in the pocket. He's a pocket passer. We missed the deep ball, which is what we all thought we wanted. But Taylor's extending plays. The guy out of his last 10 games has won 7 and lost 3. And of them 3, 2 of them were COVID-affected games. It's now, you can't argue with them statistics, unfortunately. And I know stats aren't everything, but wins are. And this team want to play for number 4. So that's where I'm at the moment, is hitch your wagon to Taylor and we'll ride it out until we can't mathematically do anything else. And then we see Howell. It's very difficult when you bring the Howell thing in, because how do you assess someone who's only played preseason games?
Right.
It's tough.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a fair point. When you're looking at, it only needs one play when there's Taylor out. Do you know what I mean? So who'd you go to then? Do you go to back to Wentz?
Right.
But
and
again,
that creates controversy.
Yeah, exactly. Conflicts and all the rest of it. So it's and then do you bring Howell in? And that's the hard part. That's where Ron's got to earn his money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? About who he selects at that point, if that ever happens, you know.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear because I feel like I've gotten really harsh on Wentz, and I don't want to be harsh because I don't think that he was a mistake by any stretch. But the injuries to the offensive line, meaning Chase Roullier, Trey Turner, and Andrew Norwell, then ultimately Wes Schweitzer as well, and then Cosme, those injuries made it so Carson could not be effective when he's in a new offense because things aren't as comfortable with him. It's kind of more fast for him. So he needs time to be able to see and recognize things. With Taylor, he's more comfortable. He can throw guys open. In reality, it's hard for Wentz to be able to do that in his first season with somebody. So when you give him a bad O-line that's injury-plagued, that's when issues arrive for Carson. And that's what I meant by saying this: you're dying a slow, painful death, leaving Carson out there because he cannot be able to be effective behind this offensive line. This doesn't mean that Taylor Heinicke is better than Carson Wentz. It's just he's better suited for the offense given with what they have in their hand at the moment. And I don't want to go too – I feel like I've been too hard on Wentz in a breath, but that's ultimately how I feel about the situation. I knew I was kind of not calling for this, but I kind of could see this happening. And I'm glad that the sacks have gone down. They're winning football games because this was ultimately what I saw. And it's not an indictment of Carson. It's just the unfortunate reality is the fact of the matter. Well, last question, guys. This is from our guy, Yam in Japan on Twitter. He said, if we lose the next two games and come a bit back down, who is the quarterback for the remainder of 2022? I think if we were at 4-6, I don't even see a wild card run saving the season. Do we bring back Wentz to see what he can do? Do we ride with Taylor Heinicke, or do we throw Howell to the Wolves?
Did you want to go ahead with that?
Yeah. I think what will happen is if we do lose these two games, Wentz will be back in. Okay, and then what will happen is they'll play him probably up until about 69% of his snaps, and then they'll play Hal. That's what I think will happen, just so we don't lose that second rounder.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I think it was I'm not sure how many games are left now for him to get to 69%. I think he has to play at least another 5 games. And honestly, I can't see him playing 5 more games. I think if you're going to do anything and there's no realistic shot, putting someone like Howell in against the Texans might be a good call, because we've got that run there where we have Atlanta followed by the Texans, and then you're into back-to-back divisional games against New York. So I don't know. That's a real quandary. And as you said, Andy, this is where Ron needs to earn his money.
Yep, I agree with you. If they lose the next 2 games, meaning against the Vikings and the Eagles, sitting at 4-6, the next matchup would be the Texans. That November 20th matchup against the Texans, I think you start Taylor Heinicke for that. If they lose the game, November 27th is when you start kicking the tires on what you truly want to do. Because if you want to plug Sam Howell in, I think the best way to be able to do that is you plug him in for the December 4th New York Giants game. If they continue losing against Atlanta, against Houston, if they lose 4 straight, you start Howell on December 4th against the Giants. Because then you have the bye week and then you face the Giants again. So you can ultimately see in real time how he does, Sam Howell, against the Giants. Go through the bye week, see how you did the week before, then make adjustments to go against the Giants again and see how he basically does adjustments to that first matchup, and then you have Sam Howell. But to actually answer your question, Yam in Japan, I think it's going to be Taylor Heinicke. I think you continue going with Taylor. I'm not sure what's going on with Carson with his hand and everything. I hope he's all right because it is his throwing hand. Things are going to take a little while, but if he's ready to go, then sure, kick the tires. But at the moment, I think it's going to be Taylor until the season's gone. All right, boys, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I really appreciate you. Everyone that sent in questions for us. The Colonel, Andy, I know you sent in a question, but I was going to make you answer your own question. And then Scott, thank you so much for joining us, brothers. You guys are going to be starting a podcast, apparently. I'm not sure if I was supposed to say that, but you're thinking about it, and I hope today kind of helped you change your mind.
Yeah, I hope so. I've been doing a bit of moonlighting on other podcasts just to try and get my ear in, and as Andy. But yeah, I think we're going to go in December, I think. But we need to make sure we've got artwork and we've got a time where we're going to go ahead with it. But I think it's just time to jump in feet first and go for it. What's your thoughts, Andy?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yeah.
Look at a little mischievous, little, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Little mischievous.
No problem.
Little sneaky. All right, boys. I can't thank you guys enough for coming here and joining me for this episode with Reed not being able to be here. I really do appreciate your guys' constant support, friendship, and loyalty to this team. It really is awesome to see the fact you guys are excited about getting into the podcast game. One piece of advice I'll give you, all that artwork, all that other stuff, it's overhyped, man. All I'll say is your camaraderie, your relationship, what you guys got going already together, what I've seen here in the past 45 minutes, you guys are going to be just fine. All right? Just worry about the camaraderie. Worry about building up that product. The artwork will come, and slowly it will, but it's kind of like putting makeup on a pig, essentially, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
So you build up the base, get your camaraderie up, get yourselves nice and comfortable with each other, and then really kind of grow into what you believe your pod is. You know, I want you to have your own identity. Don't want you to strive for somebody else's. I want you to do your own thing. You know what I mean? That's my only piece of advice, boys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Well, we'll take that from one of the goats. So yeah, definitely. Thanks, Kyle. And hopefully we'll catch you week 17 if all three of us ugly UK chaps are going to get back across, which I'm hoping we will be able to do. But yeah, thanks. That playoffs, exactly. Well, we might have to now. You know what I mean? We'll see how it goes.
And then obviously this weekend, the Minnesota matchup, Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins coming to town. The first blackout game at home. So everybody going to the game, make sure you're wearing all black. It's going to be fun and a historical game, to say the least. First ever blackout game for the Burgundy and Gold. So I hope you guys are hyped for it as much as I am. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm Scouse.
I'm Scott.
You guys should have said your Reader Hall. It would have been funny. All right, everybody. We'll see you again on Thursday. Thank you, boys. I really appreciate it. We'll see you guys on Thursday. Have a safe Halloween night. We'll see you again on Thursday, everybody. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!